The war had ended, but peace didn't feel real. People on Earth still carried pain in their hearts. The skies were quiet, but the silence was heavy. Buildings stood tall, but many had broken windows. Families sat together again, but the empty chairs reminded them of those who never came back. Commander Ethan Cole stood near the tall glass window of Earth's security headquarters. He looked out at the city below, lights shining, cars moving, people trying to live normal lives again. But he knew deep inside, the world had changed forever, and today, something strange was about to happen. A soft beep came from his desk. He turned around and saw a message flash on the screen, as per the peace treaty. Your assigned alien assistant will arrive at 9 o'clock. Ethan frowned. He had read the treaty 10 times. But this part had slipped past him, an alien assistant. Was this some kind of joke? The door to his office opened slowly. A tall figure stepped inside. She was not human. Her skin had a soft blue glow. Her eyes were silver and bright like stars. She wore a black uniform with strange symbols on her shoulder. Her voice was calm, almost musical. Commander Ethan Cole, she said. I am Liari, from the Valari Union. I have been assigned to assist you. Ethan didn't move. He stared at her, his hand slowly moving toward the hidden pistol in his desk. He didn't trust aliens, not after the war. They had killed too many good soldiers. To many of his friends, but he remembered the treaty. Humans and the Valari had signed it together. No more war, no more fighting. Still, this didn't feel right. Why send one of them into his office, his space? You're early, Ethan said coldly. I prefer to be early, Liari replied without emotion. Her silver eyes scanned the room as if she could see through the walls. Ethan noticed something strange. She had no bag. No device, no datapad, just herself, calm and silent like a shadow. Before he could ask her anything else, the emergency alarm rang out, red lights flashed, and the floor shook slightly. Unauthorized access in the data vault, a voice shouted through the speakers. Ethan rushed to his screen and pulled up the map. Someone was trying to hack into Earth's defense files. He turned to Liari, who stood still, watching him. Is this you? He asked sharply. No, she said, her voice as steady as before. But her eyes, they glowed brighter now. Focused and sharp, she walked toward his desk. And before Ethan could stop her, she placed her hand on the screen. A strange code appeared, unlocking the security layer. Level 3 clearance bypassed, the system said. Ethan was shocked. How did you do that? He demanded. Liari looked at him. I was trained to assist, not to explain, she said. That's not helping, Ethan snapped. Someone is inside our vault. Someone with deep access. She moved to the side wall and touched a panel. It opened to reveal a second screen Ethan didn't know existed. I can trace the intruder, Liari said. Her hands flying over the alien keyboard within seconds. A red dot appeared on the screen. Someone was in the sublevel. Near the AI core, Ethan grabbed his weapon and moved toward the door. Liari followed, her movements smooth and silent. Stay here, he ordered. I'm not here to follow orders, she replied. I'm here to follow the treaty. Ethan didn't argue. He was too focused on what was happening. They moved down the hall. Passing guards, alarms, flashing red lights. His mind raced. Why now? Why during her arrival? Was she part of this attack? Or trying to stop it? They reached the sublevel and found 2 guards unconscious. The door to the AI core was open. Inside, a figure stood in the shadows, typing fast on a floating terminal. Stop. Ethan shouted, raising his weapon. The figure turned to human, wearing a military uniform. But it wasn't someone Ethan knew. Before the man could speak, Liari raised her hand. A pulse of light shot from her palm, hitting the terminal and shutting it down instantly. The man tried to run, but Ethan tackled him to the ground. "What were you doing?" Ethan yelled. The man smirked. "You have no idea what's coming." Guards arrived and took the man away. Ethan turned to Liar, breathing hard. She was calm again, as if nothing had happened. "How did you know what to do?" he asked. She tilted her head. "I have seen this kind of attack before. On my world." Ethan didn't speak. He looked at her again, really looked this time. Maybe she wasn't just a secretary. Maybe she was the only one who understood what was coming next. And maybe, just maybe, the war had never really ended. Liari sat quietly across the table, her silver eyes fixed on Ethan. The glow of the overhead lights made her skin shimmer like liquid glass. She looked calm, almost too calm, as if nothing had happened in the sublevel just an hour ago. Ethan didn't feel calm at all. His heart was still racing. And his hand rested near his weapon, hidden under the desk. He wanted to ask her 100 questions, but his voice came out as only one. "Who are you really?" he asked. "I told you," Liari said softly. "I am your assigned assistant under the treaty." "No," Ethan said, leaning forward. "Secretaries don't hack our security systems in seconds." Her lips curved slightly, not a smile. "More like a quiet warning. You think you know everything about the treaty," she said. "But there are parts of it you were never allowed to see." Ethan's jaw tightened. He hated secrets, especially alien secrets. He had lost friends to secrets, to hidden plans and false peace offers during the war. Liari stood up and walked slowly toward the window. Below, the city lights blinked like a restless ocean. She touched the glass with her glowing fingers. "I didn't want to come here," she whispered. "My people forced me, your people forced you. We are both prisoners of this treaty." Her voice had a sadness Ethan didn't expect. For a moment, she didn't look like an enemy or an alien. She looked like someone trapped, just like him. But then she turned back, her eyes sharp again. "Someone inside your government is trying to restart the war," she said. "I was sent to stop it." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. "Why should I believe you?" he asked. Liari raised her arm slowly and pressed something hidden under her sleeve. A small hologram flickered to life between them, a moving image of alien ships. Secret meetings, human generals shaking hands with Valari officials. "These are your people," she said. "They have been sending weapons to rogue factions on both sides." Ethan stared at the images. He recognized some of the faces high-ranking officials he had worked with. "This can't be real," he muttered. "It is," Liari said. "And the man you caught today was not acting alone." He looked at her, his eyes narrowing. "What do you gain by telling me this?" "Survival," she said simply. "If this plan succeeds, my people will destroy your planet, and if it fails, your people will destroy mine." The room was silent except for the faint hum of the air system. Ethan didn't trust her, but he didn't trust his own leaders either. He needed proof, real proof, and he needed to know what she was hiding. That night, Ethan followed her. He didn't tell anyone. He didn't leave a note. He simply left the building and slipped into the shadows as she walked through the city. Liari moved like someone who knew exactly where she was going. Not a tourist, not a visitor. Someone with a plan. She entered a quiet district near the old spaceport. Most of the shops were closed, neon signs flickering weakly. She stopped in front of a door with no sign. No handle. She pressed her hand to the wall, and the door slid open silently. Ethan followed, staying close to the walls. His gun ready. Inside was a small dark room filled with alien symbols glowing faintly. A console sat in the center like a black heart. Liari walked to it and placed a crystal on top. The console came to life, lines of code streaming upward like rain. Ethan moved closer, holding his breath. She was sending a signal, a secret transmission. He could see it, hear the faint hum of the energy. "Got you," he whispered to himself, stepping out of the shadows. "Step away from the console," he ordered. His gun raised. Liari didn't turn around. "I told you," she said calmly. "I'm here to stop the war by sending secret messages to your people." Ethan snapped. "I'm warning them," she said. Her voice still steady. "I'm telling them the truth about what's happening here." "Or maybe you're telling them our defenses," Ethan growled. Liari turned now, slowly, her silver eyes shining like knives in the dark. "If I wanted to betray you," she said, "I would have done it in the vault." Ethan's finger hovered near the trigger. He didn't want to shoot her, but he had orders to protect Earth. The console beeped and shut down. The signal complete, Liari raised her empty hands. "I sent a warning," she said, "but now it's too late." "What do you mean?" Ethan demanded. "They're coming." She whispered. "Who's coming?" Ethan asked. Stepping closer, Liari looked past him. As if she could see through the walls. "My people," she said quietly. "The ones who don't believe in the treaty. The ones who will burn this planet to ash unless we stop them, outside." The night sky lit up for a brief moment. A streak of light crossed the stars. Not a shooting star, but a ship entering orbit. Ethan lowered his weapon slowly. He had no idea what he had just stepped into. But he knew one thing. The war wasn't over. It was only beginning again. The city felt colder the next morning. Clouds hung low over the towers, and the air buzzed with hidden tension. Commander Ethan Cole hadn't slept at all. He kept replaying Liari's words in his mind. "They're coming." He had seen the streak of light in the sky, a ship sliding into orbit like a blade, and now he sat at his desk, staring at the treaty file on his screen. The file that suddenly looked like a lie. Liari stood near the window. Silent as always, she didn't look tired, even though she had been up all night sending that message. Her silver eyes watched the clouds as if she could see the ship above them. Ethan broke the silence. "You're going to tell me everything," he said. "You already know everything," she replied calmly. "No," Ethan snapped. "I know nothing, just pieces you've given me." She turned slowly to face him, her expression unreadable. "There is a hidden faction among my people," she said. "They believe humans cannot be trusted. They think the treaty is a mistake." "They're not wrong," Ethan muttered under his breath. Liari ignored it. "They have been preparing for years," she continued. "They have agents here, on your planet, feeding them information." Ethan leaned back in his chair, his jaw tight. "And you're telling me this now?" "I was not allowed to speak," she said. "The council ordered me to assist quietly. But last night changed everything." He rubbed his face with his hands. "Then help me understand this," he said. "Show me proof. Real proof." Liari hesitated, then pulled a small device from her sleeve. It unfolded like a piece of glass and projected a series of images. Ethan saw alien warships hidden behind asteroids, secret communication logs between human generals and Valari commanders, a map of Earth's defense grid with red marks, targets. "Where did you get this?" Ethan whispered. "I was sent to deliver it to your leaders," Liari said quietly. "But I discovered someone here was altering the treaty files. They plan to use this evidence to blame my people for a second attack." Ethan's stomach turned. He had trusted his government even when he hated their orders. Now he saw his own side playing a deadly game. A plan designed to make humans victims again and heroes again, to win the next war. He stood up suddenly, pacing the room. "If what you're saying is true," he said, "then the people running this are not just traitors. They're trying to start an interstellar genocide." Liar's voice dropped to a whisper. "Yes, and if they succeed, millions will die on both sides." A soft chime interrupted them. Ethan glanced at his screen. A message had appeared. "Do not trust the alien. Watch your back." It vanished after a second, leaving only a blinking cursor. His blood went cold. Someone was inside his system, watching everything. He turned to Liari. "We're leaving," he said. "Where?" She asked to find the original treaty files, he said. "The ones no one wants me to see." They left through a back exit. Taking an unmarked transport, Ethan drove while Liari sat silently beside him. The city sped past in a blur of steel and neon for the first time. Ethan noticed the alien smell of her uniform. Not unpleasant, just different. He wondered how many of his soldiers she might have fought against during the war. They reached the edge of the city where the old government vaults were buried deep underground. A security officer scanned Ethan's badge and frowned. "No one's allowed in here," he said. "I was told to inspect the archives," Ethan lied smoothly. Liari stood behind him, her presence making the man uneasy. Finally, the officer nodded and let them through. The vault was a maze of steel corridors and locked doors. Cold air hissed from vents, and the lights flickered like old candles. "This is where they keep the original treaties," Ethan said quietly, "and classified files," Liari added. Her silver eyes glimmered. "Be careful, Ethan," she said softly. "This place has shadows you cannot see." They reached a sealed chamber at the very back. Ethan swiped his badge, denied. He tried again, denied. Liari stepped forward and placed her hand on the panel. It opened instantly. Alien runes glowing faintly. Ethan stared at her. "You shouldn't be able to do that," he said. She didn't answer. Inside, rows of glowing tablets floated in midair, each one a record of treaties. Deals, hidden truths. Liari walked to one of them, fingers trembling slightly for the first time. "This is it," she whispered. "The real agreement between our worlds." Ethan looked over her shoulder. His heart sank. The real treaty was different, much darker. It allowed for joint covert operations. Secret prisons, shared weapons projects. It wasn't peace. It was preparation for a bigger war. This? Ethan muttered, "This changes everything." Liari nodded slowly. "It does." Suddenly a voice echoed from the doorway. "You weren't supposed to see that." Commander Ethan spun around, his hand going to his gun. A figure stepped out of the shadows. Major Drake. His old friend from the war, but Drake's eyes were cold now. And his weapon was already raised. "You should have stayed loyal, Ethan," Drake said. "You don't understand what's at stake." Ethan aimed his gun but didn't fire. "Put it down, Drake," he said. "Don't make me do this." Liar stepped closer to Ethan, her silver eyes glowing bright. "You're part of this?" she said to Drake. "Part of the faction planning the next war." Drake smirked. "You're smarter than you look, alien," he said. "But it's too late. The plan is already in motion." The air in the vault seemed to grow heavier. Ethan's finger tightened on the trigger. Liar's hand hovered near her hidden device, and Drake took one slow step forward. His weapon steady. "I'm giving you one chance." "Ethan," he said quietly, "walk away now. Or you and your alien friend die here." Ethan didn't move. The air inside the vault was sharp and still. His finger hovered above the trigger, his heart pounding like a drum. Major Drake stood calmly. His gun pointed at Ethan's chest. Behind Ethan, Liari took a slow breath. Her glowing hand near the device on her belt. "Think, Drake," Ethan said. His voice steady but tense. "You trained me. You trusted me." Drake's face didn't change. "I did," he said. "Before you decided to trust them," he tilted his head slightly toward Liari. "She's not human, Ethan. She's the reason half our squad never made it home." "She's not the one pointing a gun at me right now," Ethan replied. Drake smirked. "You always had a sharp tongue. But you never understood the bigger picture." He took a step forward. "There is no peace. There never was. This treaty is just a cover while we build real weapons. While we prepare to end them for good." Liari spoke for the first time, her voice calm but cold. "You fear what you don't understand. I understand war. Drake snapped. "And I know a monster when I see one, without warning." Liari moved. A flash of blue light burst from her hand. Hitting the floor beside Drake's feet, it wasn't meant to harm, just too blind. Ethan used the moment to lunge forward, tackling Drake hard. The two men crashed into a row of floating data tablets. Sending sparks into the air, Drake punched Ethan in the ribs. Ethan fought back, blood pounding in his ears. They rolled across the floor, trading blows. Drake was stronger. But Ethan was faster. With a grunt, Ethan managed to knock the gun from Drake's hand and slide it across the floor. Liari picked it up and aimed it at them. "Enough," she said. Drake froze, breathing hard. A cut bleeding above his eyebrow. "You're both making a mistake," he said slowly. "If you send that data, they'll silence you. The council will call it fake. Your own people won't believe you. We don't need them to believe right away," Liari said. "We just need to show the truth." Ethan pulled himself up and wiped blood from his mouth. "Give me a reason not to expose you," he said. Looking down at Drake, Drake laughed quietly. "Because I'm not the only one. There are others. People in every agency, every system. You won't make it out of this building alive." Liari and Ethan exchanged a look. They knew he wasn't lying. The moment they tried to leave with the real treaty files, they would become targets. "We need a new plan," Ethan said. "Something they won't expect." He turned to Liari. "Can you get this data out of here without using our networks?" She nodded. "I have a quantum key. It can link directly to my people's deep archive. But I'll need time and power." Drake grinned. "There's a backup reactor in the sub-basement, but it's guarded. You'll never reach it." Ethan looked at Liari. "I've faced worse odds," he said. "And she's not just a secretary." They bound Drake's hands with magnetic cuffs and locked him inside the storage room. Drake didn't resist as the door sealed behind him. He called out, "When this ends, remember, I tried to protect our kind." Ethan didn't answer. They moved quickly through the hidden passages behind the vault. The old government complex had many forgotten tunnels. Liari led the way, her alien tech scanning for motion and heat. Twice they had to stop as patrols passed nearby. At last, they reached the sub-basement. It was quiet, too quiet. The heavy door stood open, and the reactor chamber was dimly lit. A soft hum filled the air. The sound of old machines still breathing. "This place hasn't been touched in years," Ethan whispered. Liari stepped forward and placed her crystal drive into the console. Lights flickered, and the data began to transfer. But then the alarms screamed. "Unauthorized access detected," a robotic voice warned. Doors slammed shut above them. "Someone's locking us in," Ethan said. Pulling out his gun, Liari kept working, her hands moving fast. "We need 30 seconds, she said. By me, that footsteps echoed from the hallway boots. Fast and heavy, 3 soldiers in black armor appeared at the entrance. "Stand down," one shouted. Raising his rifle, Ethan fired first, hitting the wall to force them back. The battle was short and brutal. Ethan moved with deadly skill, taking one down, dodging another. Liari stunned the last soldier with a pulse from her wrist device. "Transfer complete," the console said. Liari yanked the crystal out. The floor shook slightly. A backup alarm now triggered. "They're going to flood the chamber with gas," she said. Ethan grabbed her arm. "This way." They ran through a maintenance tunnel, gas hissing behind them. They reached the surface minutes later, breathless and covered in dust. Ethan looked up. A Valari cum drone hovered above. He handed the crystal to Liari. "Send it," he said. She pressed the key. A beam of light shot from the drone, sending the files into deep space. It was done, but it wasn't over. Back at HQ, a dozen red alerts began to flash across screens. People in power were waking up to their secrets being exposed. Some would run, some would fight back. But the truth was now out there. Ethan looked at Liari. For the first time since the war, he felt like he wasn't fighting alone. She looked at him and said quietly, "They will come after us now. Let them," Ethan replied. "We just gave the galaxy a reason to question everything." The old hangar smelled like fire and oil. It was buried beneath the ruins of a destroyed military base. Ethan hadn't been there in years, not since the last battle of the war, not since that day. He stood still in the shadows, watching the rusty steel doors ahead. This place wasn't on any map anymore. The government had erased it, like it never existed, but Ethan remembered. And so did the man waiting inside. Liari walked quietly behind him. "This is where it happened," Ethan said softly. "Where I lost my team, where I lost my brother." She looked around, her silver eyes full of thought. "You don't have to do this," she said. Ethan shook his head. "Yes, I do." They entered the hangar, dust swirling around their feet. It was quiet at first, too quiet. Then a slow clap echoed through the darkness. "Well, well," a deep voice said. "Look who finally came home." From the shadows stepped Major Drake. No longer in cuffs, his uniform was dirty. But his eyes were clear, sharp, focused. He wasn't alone. 6 armed men stood behind him, all wearing black armor with no symbols. Rogue soldiers, loyal only to the plan. "You let him escape," Liari said coldly. Ethan didn't move. "I didn't let him do anything," he said. "But I knew he'd come here." Drake smirked. "This place is the grave of heroes," he said. "And now it's going to be yours." Ethan stepped forward. "You lied to us," he said. "You turned our pain into a weapon." Drake's expression didn't change. "I gave our people a purpose after the war. We were just tools with no war to fight." He pointed at Liari. "They gave us a treaty and told us to shake hands with murderers." "She saved my life," Ethan said. Drake's face twisted with anger. "She's the reason you needed saving," he growled. "She and her kind are not built for peace." Liari stepped beside Ethan, her voice calm but strong. "You speak like war is a home," she said. "But it only leaves behind ashes." Drake raised his weapon slowly. "I don't expect you to understand, alien," he said. "But your people are already sending ships. We intercepted the signal. They'll be here in 2 days." Ethan's heart sank. Liari looked at him with wide eyes. "I warned them," she said. "They were supposed to wait." "They won't," Drake said. "They're coming for revenge, and so are we." He stepped closer. "But here's the thing. Your little broadcast didn't stop the plan. It moved it forward." From his jacket, Drake pulled out a small case. He opened it slowly. "Revealing a neutron core detonator tomorrow night," he said. "This will turn the alien embassy into glass." Ethan's eyes burned with rage. "You're going to kill thousands of innocent lives, human and alien." "They're not innocent," Drake said. "They're targets." Ethan drew his weapon. But Drake didn't flinch. The room was too full of tension to breathe. The rogue soldiers raised their guns. For a moment, it felt like the war had returned. Then Liari stepped forward, slowly lifting her hands. "I can stop the ships," she said. "If you give me access to a deep space relay, I can speak directly to the fleet. Tell them the truth, all of it." Drake laughed bitterly. "You think they'll listen to you?" "They will if I show them who planned this," she said. She looked at Ethan. "And I need him to send it." Ethan nodded. They had one chance, but they needed more than words. They needed evidence, undeniable proof of what Drake was doing. "We'll need to get into the embassy," Ethan said. "There's a secured relay in the command tower." Drake narrowed his eyes. "You won't make it past the checkpoints." "We don't have to," Ethan said. "I still have my clearance, and I still have my name." Liari pulled out a device from her belt and handed it to Ethan. "This is a voice code amplifier," she said. It can override most security systems for 60 seconds. Drake took a slow step back. "You're serious about stopping this?" he said. "You're willing to die for them." "No," Ethan said. "I'm willing to live for everyone." Drake didn't shoot. He stared at Ethan for a long moment, then nodded at his men. "Let them go," he said quietly. One soldier protested, but Drake raised his hand. "They're going to try to stop a war. Let's see how far they get." Ethan didn't say thank you. He and Liari turned and walked out of the hangar. Once outside, Liari exhaled. "That could have gone badly," she said. "It still might," Ethan replied, "but we know what we have to do." They had less than 24 hours to break into the embassy, to stop the bomb, and to warn the alien fleet before Earth became a battlefield again. The ghosts of the war were awake, but this time, Ethan wasn't running from them. He was walking straight into the fire. The sky was dark when they arrived at the spaceport. Heavy clouds floated above the launch zone, hiding the stars and the warship waiting behind them. Ethan stood beside Liari near a cargo shuttle, its engines cold and quiet. The plan was risky, dangerous, and maybe even impossible, but it was all they had. "The relay station is on the orbital ring," Ethan said, pointing to the blinking lights above the clouds. "That's where we upload the message. Warn your people and stop the bomb." Liari nodded, checking her device one last time. "If we fail," she said softly, "there will be no turning back." They climbed into the cargo shuttle and sealed the hatch. Ethan's hands moved over the control panel. Old instincts from the war came back, fast and sharp. The engines roared to life, and the shuttle lifted into the night sky like a ghost. As the shuttle rose higher, Liari stared through the small window. A Volari warship shimmered in the distance, long, sharp, and cold. It hadn't attacked yet, but it was watching, waiting. Her people were ready for war. All it would take was one signal inside the station. Alarms blared before they even docked. Someone had triggered a lockdown. Ethan cursed under his breath. "They know we're coming." Liari pulled out the voice code amplifier and handed it to him. "We'll only get one try." The docking doors opened with a slow hiss. Smoke drifted into the shuttle. The lights above flickered. "Split up," Ethan said. "You get to the relay. I'll draw their attention." Liari hesitated. "Don't get yourself killed," she said. "I won't," he replied. Not today. They ran in different directions, boots echoing through the steel hallways. The station felt abandoned, but Ethan knew it wasn't. Eyes were watching, waiting. He moved through a security checkpoint and activated the amplifier. The doors blinked red, then turned green for 60 seconds. He passed through just before they sealed shut again. At the same time, Liari found the relay chamber. It was massive, glowing panels, energy beams pulsing in the center. She placed the crystal into the core and began the transmission. The data flowed fast, evidence of the secret plans of the bomb, of the people behind it. Then the system stopped. "Power insufficient," it said. She looked around in panic. The backup generator wasn't enough. They needed to reroute power from the defense grid. Ethan's voice came through her come. "Security just found me. I'm pinned near the armory." Liari's eyes narrowed. "Buy me 2 minutes," she said. "Make it 1," Ethan replied. Then the signal cut. He fired down the corridor, ducking behind cover as bullets slammed into the walls. 3 black armored guards moved in fast. Ethan rolled across the floor, grabbed a plasma grenade, and tossed it. The blast shook the hallway, sending sparks everywhere. He ran through the smoke, heart pounding, breath short. 1 minute wasn't going to be enough. Back in the relay room, Liari climbed into the open control panel. She reached deep inside the wiring with trembling hands. A shock hit her wrist. She winced but didn't stop. She found the defense grid port and connected the crystal directly. The system came alive. transmission resumed from orbit. The Valari warship received the signal inside the alien bridge. Commanders watched the screen in silence. Images of the hidden human faction, the bomb, the manipulation, all of it was clear. One Valari general stood up slowly. "Hold fire," he said. "Delay the attack." Liari smiled faintly as the system confirmed delivery. But then something went wrong. The core began to glow too brightly. Alarms screamed. Power overload detected. She had pushed the system too far. Ethan heard the alarm and turned toward the relay chamber. He ran with everything he had. Smoke filled the station now, and the lights were dying. He reached the chamber and saw Liari behind the glass. She was trapped. Locked behind an emergency shield, Liar. He shouted, slamming his hand against the glass. She looked at him, calm. "Peaceful. I finished the message," she said. "You have to go now." "No," Ethan said, trying to force the door open. "I'm not leaving you." She shook her head. "There's no time. If the core explodes, it will destroy the station, but I can stop it." From here, he stared at her, rage and pain in his eyes. "You don't have to die for this." "I don't want to," she said softly. "But peace costs something. Let me give it this time." Suddenly, a backup panel opened behind Ethan. An emergency vent system Liar triggered it remotely. "Go," she whispered. "I'll be right behind you." Ethan didn't move. But then the ceiling shook. The first wave of explosions began. He turned and ran, forced by the station itself. Fire followed behind him, eating the corridor in seconds. He jumped into the escape pod and launched just as the relay chamber exploded in a wave of light. The pod spun through space, quiet except for Ethan's breathing. He looked back at the burning ring of the station. His heart cracked. He had lost her, or so he thought. A soft signal blinked on the pod screen. One word appeared, survived. Ethan stared, then let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Liari had made it. The galaxy wasn't safe yet. But there was hope, real hope, and now? One final move remained, stopping the bomb before it killed everything they had just saved. Ethan's boots slammed against the landing pad as the escape pod touched down. Smoke curled from the engine, and the sky behind him glowed with the fire of the destroyed station. His heart was still racing, but not from fear. He had seen the word on the screen. Survived. Liari was alive across the platform. Military sirens wailed in the distance. The city below was tense, waiting. News of the data transmission had already spread. People were beginning to question everything: the treaty, the war, the leaders, but none of that mattered right now. Somewhere in the heart of the capital, a neutron bomb was being prepared. A weapon that could level the alien embassy and start a war that would never end, and Ethan had less than 1 hour to stop it. He ran through the corridors of the command center. His old badge still worked, just barely. Guards looked at him, confused, unsure whether to salute or arrest. But none dared stop him. He moved like a man on fire. In a hidden chamber beneath the embassy, Liari appeared from the shadows. Her skin was singed, her arm bleeding, but she moved with purpose. A small team of peacekeepers had found her floating in a damaged maintenance pod. She didn't waste time explaining. She asked only one question: "Where's the bomb?" Ethan reached the control tower first. He accessed the emergency maps and tracked the energy source. It was buried deep in the underground tunnels below the embassy. Same place he had once trained during the early days of the war. He grabbed a rifle and sprinted to the transport. The elevator dropped fast, humming with old wires and forgotten systems. Memories flooded in, voices of his fallen team. The tunnels hadn't changed, but Ethan had. He reached the bomb chamber and froze. Major Drake was there, standing beside the glowing core. The neutron device looked complete, surrounded by cables and blinking lights. Drake turned slowly, his expression calm. "I knew you'd come," he said. Ethan raised his weapon. "It's over," he said. "The truth is out. The Volari fleet is holding back. There's still a chance to fix this." Drake smiled sadly. "Some truths are too late," he said. He held a small device in his hand, the remote trigger. "You saw what peace gave us, Ethan. Weakness, corruption, chaos." "You're wrong," Ethan replied. "Peace gave us a future." Drake shook his head. "No. It gave us lies." Footsteps echoed from the hallway. Liari appeared, limping, but alive. Her presence changed the air. Even Drake paused, surprised. "You're harder to kill than I expected," he muttered. "I'm not here to die," Liari said. "I'm here to finish what we started." She walked beside Ethan. Together, they faced Drake to survivors of war, standing against one man clinging to it. "You were a good soldier," Drake said, his voice tired. "So was I. But the world has no place for us anymore." "There's always a place," Ethan said. "But only if we choose to build it." Drake looked at them, the trigger still in his hand. For a moment, he didn't speak, then he raised it. Liari moved faster than he expected. A flash of light burst from her wrist, hitting the remote and blasting it from Drake's hand. Ethan charged forward, tackling Drake to the ground. They fought like they had during training, two warriors who knew each other's every move. But Ethan had something Drake didn't hope. And hope made him stronger, with one final punch. He knocked Drake unconscious. Liari rushed to the bomb and began deactivating the core. The system blinked red, then yellow, then green. "Device disarmed," it said. The silence that followed was heavy. Ethan fell to his knees, breathing hard. It was over, really over, later that day. The Volari fleet pulled away from Earth's orbit. A new treaty was proposed, one written openly with both sides present. No more secrets, no more shadow wars, for the first time. Humans and Volari stood side by side, not as enemies, but as partners. Drake was taken into custody. Some still supported him, but most had seen enough. The world had changed in just 2 days, and everyone knew who to thank. Ethan stood at the spaceport again, this time watching a Volari ship prepare for launch. Liari stood beside him, wearing new robes, her wounds healed. "I have to return," she said. "My people need to hear this from me." "I know," Ethan said, his voice quiet. "You did more than anyone expected." She looked at him with soft eyes. "So did you." The ship's engines began to glow. People gathered to watch, cameras floating nearby. Liari turned to Ethan one last time. "If I come back," she asked, "will you be here?" He smiled. "I'll be waiting," he said. She stepped onto the ramp and disappeared inside the ship. A moment later, it rose into the sky, leaving a trail of light. Ethan watched until it vanished beyond the clouds. The war was over. Not just the one between worlds, but the one inside him, too. Peace didn't come from orders. It came from choices, and Ethan had made his. He turned and walked back toward the city, toward the future, and above him. Among the stars, something new had begun.